Uh-oh, here we go again. So I'm deciding to make a part 2 video of rebuilding the motor to this Hoover Dimension Supreme because I have a bit of a confession to make. After I made that video of rebuilding this, when I did that test run video, after the end of the video was over, I turned it back on again to see if anything was still working, and all of a sudden there was just loud grinding noise, and then all of a sudden the vacuum just lost suction. And then upon tearing apart, looked like everything was in the right spot, but unfortunately what I have found out is that the original fan, and I didn't buy a replacement, but what happened to the original fan was, I guess I must have screwed on the fan too close to the fan chamber, and what happens was all the heat cycles and rubbing up against the motor casing, the fan literally fused itself, the plastic of the fan fused itself to the fan chamber side. So that was the first time I've ever had that situation. So unfortunately I wound up having to break the fan apart, and unfortunately as I drilled off one of the rivets to try and re-rivet the bearing plate back in, I unfortunately broke off, or more like melted off, one of the plastic parts that hold the rivet down. So unfortunately that was one part of the motor that was unrebuildable, but luckily I had a spare motor that I used as a rebuildable core. So this is getting its second chance right here, so to speak, and I'm installing this brand new old stock 20 blade fan. Some people probably remember my green Hoover Dimension, and then I made a video of when I put the 20 blade fan into it. So upon rebuilding the motor to this Dimension Supreme, I'm going to install this new fan and try not to make the same mistake as last time. So anyway, I'm gonna get myself set up here and show you what it takes to rebuild or replace the fan on your Hoover Elite motor. I hope this video turns out better than the last one I did on the green one with my GoPro. Alright, now what you're gonna want to do to get this fan on, and I would like to point out one major thing about this is actually a left-hand thread. So you can't just do the old righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. It's got to be lefty-tighty, righty-loosey. But to get this guy on, you're going to want to take a set of vice grips and grab a hold of the end of the motor shaft. And first thing you're going to want to do is insert a little washer into on the motor shaft on the fan side, and then thread it in left-handed. Now, to get it started, you're gonna want to at least feel around this side of the motor just to make sure you don't make the fan go up too close. But once you think you've got it on right, then you're good to go. To make sure nothing's rubbing or binding, which we look to be in good shape here. Alright, now once you got it to this point, make sure you got good enough space between the fan and the chamber, which I'm thinking I've done a pretty good job. Doesn't seem to be too close to the fan chamber side. But we're gonna want to put the fan cover on. So just like that, and take your little Phillips screws, excuse me, which I put these right here on the hood so I don't lose them. I can't talk today, but anyway, just thread these guys into the motor casing, and then the last one kind of down here. And then you're going to want to tighten these down with a little Phillips head screwdriver, like such. And then you're going to want to put your seals back on, your dust seal right there, and also your little top seal going to the bag. It's going to take a little bit of work to get this guy on. But once you got it on there, you're good to go. I'm just going to put a fresh new light bulb in it. This is an LED replacement that I am putting in. And you are now ready to set it back, the motor, into the base of the cleaner. It's always best to have it reclined back, so that way when you go to screw your motor mounts down, you won't run the risk of having it loosely mounted. So let's go ahead and put the 3 Phillips in on the right side, which this is actually a specific part for Legacy style Elites because they have the automatic hose conversion. Onto right here. See, when you move it to the highest point of the carpet height, it just blocks off that suction port, so you won't have the suction go into the head. It'll all just block off and go through your hose. But let me go ahead and tighten these down. All right. Now once you got it to this point, I just loop the belt back around the shaft. And now you're ready to start putting things back together again. You finish putting the rest of this back together, and we'll show you the final result. Alright, it's all put back together again. And unfortunately, upon doing a quick test run, the headlight unfortunately blew out. So, unfortunately, this is not going to have a light for this demonstration yet again. But, let's go ahead and give this thing a quick test run, see if I finally fixed it. I will say the replacement fan just does make the motors run a lot quieter than that 7-blade. This thing runs very good. Definitely sounds a lot more smooth and definitely more quiet than it did previously when I did the first rebuild. But after breaking in the motor, let's go ahead and turn this thing back on to see if the fan fuses itself to the plastic. Wait. Well, it's fixed. So, one moral I would like to say to you guys, be sure when you're rebuilding your Hoover Elite, don't over tighten the fan, because if it gets too close to the fan chamber and you're running it without realizing the fan's rubbing against the motor casing, it will fuse itself to the fan chamber. But luckily, in this case, I got lucky. And now this thing is working just as it should. And thought so. So, I hope you've enjoyed this final review of rebuilding this Hoover Dimension Supreme. Be sure and stay tuned, and don't forget to like, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.